Silk Road, just to bump back a couple of points on the drug war. So the Silk Road is taken down, with great much celebration by the FBI, and oh, that's the end of drug markets online. Well, it was within a couple of days there were new Silk Roads, and then within a month, the Silk Road 2 came back, and now Silk Road 2 has something like 4 or 5 times the amount of Bitcoin volume for the Silk Road 1. It's a much more vast enterprise. It went from like the county store to Walmart. And it's very funny, actually. We watched the FBI giving the press conference. There's a very bad man out there, and he did secretive, horrible things for like 3 years and earned something like $1 billion doing it. We only caught him because he inadvertently put his email address on a public forum. So, I mean, you're listening to this, and you're thinking, wow, so if I just sort of take some extra precautions. So sure enough, the whole thing just blows up. There's Silk Roads all over the world now. It's just amazing. These guys are like product promoters. I'm the CEO of my own company, Liberty.me. I want the FBI to arrest me and tell everybody how evil and dreadful my website is. That would just I'm sure, be the biggest boon for my business ever. Okay, so let's talk about number 4. I'm getting a little bit behind in time. Too much riffing on each one. Okay, this is amazing. Retirement and medical. Okay, it seems inconceivable to us in this room that there was a time when FDR and his advisors imagined that they would cobble together a program in which we could all retire at 65 and live happily ever after, forever. But I don't know what the mechanism here was. It was mostly a political trick. But the idea is we were going to be taken care of by the state forever. And then 30 years later, they put into place similar medical systems that were supposed to do the same for us. Both, as we all know, these systems are 100% bankrupt. They are not salvageable in any sense. There is no person under the age of 40 that's counting on any of this money whatsoever. They know it's just being looted from them every day, but they'll never see a dime again. And as a result, people are cobbling together different alternatives. Things like working forever, regrettably, maybe actually saving money, which would be a lot easier to do if the Federal Reserve weren't keeping interest rates at 0. But the point is that the whole system is just completely collapsed. This was supposed to be a centerpiece of the Status Project. It was like the great program that was going to save humanity. And look how, just in a very short time, it just completely, relatively short time, fell apart. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of waste later. There's very little to show for it whatsoever. And nowadays, people thoroughly understand, at least under a certain age, that there's no chance for counting on this at all. And the same thing is happening to the medical industry. I think it's very interesting what Obamacare means for the medical industry, because there were plenty of problems that existed, but things weren't so grim and horrible that there was much incentive for completely seceding from the system yet, actually. Things were sort of fascistically normalized. People had their health care. It was possible to buy private insurance. Things were functioning relatively normally. And then Obamacare comes along and just basically blows up the whole thing. And Obamacare collapses in about day 10 after its release. And everybody realized that premiums were going to be higher than ever. People who had health insurance before suddenly would not have it anymore. That even the health insurance that you thought you could count on, you can't really count on, because now insurers are very, very reluctant to pay. I don't know if you've wrangled these days with the pharmacy, but you find now, unlike maybe 5 years ago, that it's actually difficult to get any insurance money, any insurance to cough up any money for everything, for anything at all, because they're faced with an impossible economic situation. This is an increasingly socialistic industry, and what's going to happen to our system in this country is the same thing has happened to most socialistic medical systems around the world. Basically, if you're rich enough, you leave it. You get out completely. And we're seeing this more and more and more. Medical professionals saying, you know what? I want nothing to do with this. And individuals individual saying, I don't want anything to do with this. If I need to be fixed up, I'll pay cash, and that's it. And this is what's happening. We're already developing a separate medical sector outside of the state. In a way, I think this is a wonderful thing. If there's anything good to say about Obamacare, it's that it sort of pushed the absurdity of the current system so far that it actually reached the breaking point. And that's where we are with American socialized medicine. Let's look at number 5, education. Education. I think it was about in the 1890s, 1880s, 1890s, when it was first floated this idea that the state should control it all. And should control it all for purposes of inculcating a kind of civic religion, really. And socializing the new immigrants to stop being so sort of shabby and unpatriotic. And start acting more like the wasps who are ruling us and should rule us forever. And so they invented public schools, and then after World War II, they bolstered American university systems, and there was the founding of the Department of Education designed to nationalize education, and so on and so on. And now look what's happened. No longer does the monopoly persist. I mean, the first revolutionaries in this space, you know who they were, right? They're the homeschoolers in the 1970s. Unbelievable. Yeah, this was a great revolution. They were the first ones to test the theory that the state was really the best. They said, no, probably it's not. I think I can actually teach reading and writing and such things myself, and I'm just going to keep my kid away. They faced a lot of coercion, a lot of regulation, and a lot of terrible things in those years. In so many ways were the benefactors of these sort of quiet revolutionaries in the 1970s. But now you see what's happened. The founding of cottage schools all over the country, homeschooling is taking off, more and more private schools being established against all odds. Even the public school systems increasingly sort of piecemeal privatization taking place. And at the university level, I don't know what your experience has been, but I see kids now who are juniors and seniors in high school looking at their college and going, is this really going to be worth it for me? Is it really? I mean, they look at their older brothers and sisters, or just one generation back, and seeing people graduate with college degrees, unable to get jobs, but carrying around $100,000 of debt, and going, what the hell are they thinking? That was extremely stupid. And I'm not going to make the same mistake. We're seeing the whole education monopoly completely shattered. And online education, my God, you know, I mean, there's nothing you can't learn online now. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happened. When you compare the reality of today to 120 years ago and what they imagined, nothing has worked out as they planned. They wanted total control of everything that we learn, to dictate every textbook, every doctrine, every idea, control every institution, and nationalize, essentially, education at every level. This hasn't happened. They tried, they failed, and in the future, they will die. My point number 6, and really there are like 6,000 of these examples, but I'm just kind of listing my favorite one. Zoning, right? Zoning. Oh, the state knows where everything should go. They know what should be a store, what should be a residence, you know, what should be a subdivision, what should be an apartment, how many people you're allowed to keep in there, and what you should charge, and so on. So it was a form of central planning. But in the last 5 years, look what's happened. I mean, the whole thing has been blown up, even in places like New York, thanks to these beautiful services like Airbnb, right? Where you can just go anywhere and stay anywhere, totally in violation of the law. But the beautiful thing is the invention, you know, the invention of these peer-to-peer technologies. You see what's happening, right? And the internet is connecting individuals to individuals so that they can have the same amount of power and discover a kind of a cooperative relationship with each other outside of zoning controls and third parties and states and their rules and their regulations. And the whole thing has grown up so fast and so, thanks to entrepreneurship mainly, thanks to sort of revolutionary entrepreneurs who very naively said, well, look, if you got an extra room, why not rent it out? You know, how are they supposed to know that like the whole state is like completely against this for whatever reason? now you have Airbnb, and when governments have tried to crack down, it's no longer just, you know, the Chamber of Commerce. Actually, the Chamber of Commerce mostly likes all these zoning rules. You know who gets angry about it? It's just regular people, just regular folks who like using these peer-to-peer services. They've become kind of the bourgeois revolutionaries. I mean, they're sort of the great advocates of, you know, of apartment anarchy or whatever in our times, thanks to services like Airbnb. They represent a fundamental attack on the state's central plan, and it's utterly unsustainable in light of it. There is no future whatsoever for the regulations in New York, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, or Denver, or Houston, or Dallas, or Grand Rapids, or anywhere else for these strict rules concerning what kind of deals you can make, with whom you want to make them, concerning where you will stay and for how long. These will not last, and they're being destroyed by technology.